And then our product is called the Sloan AQUS system, Graywater system. Basically has two parts. Has a tank that goes inside the vanity or underneath the bathroom sink, and then a component that fits inside the toilet tank. We sell it and market it to residential as well as hotels, light industrial, where there might. The only drawback to our system is it must have a toilet tank. It can't use a handle type system, so you have to have a tank. And I'll show you why that's important here in a second. Saves in a two-person bathroom, going to save somewhere between 4,000 and 6,000 gallons of fresh water a year. But again, as I mentioned yesterday, the other economic benefit is the other side of it, which is the wastewater, reduction as well. So how the system works, basically there's two parts. This is the piece that does the major work. If you were to, what I try to tell people about how this works is if you were to take the lid of your toilet off, and then you were to take your finger and hold the float valve up in the off position, then you go and flush the toilet, nothing happens because it's the float going up and down that turns fresh water on and off. Well, that's all this little piece does. Clips onto the back of your toilet inside, and this foot right over here actuates under the float valve. When you flush the toilet, the float is heavy enough, it pushes this down, trips a little micro switch, which activates the pump. The pump's inside that tank. Water passes through this 3/8-inch hose, comes in to this cup. This cup basically becomes a seesaw, and it becomes a counterweight. It's full of water, and as it drops, it raises the float valve up, holding it up in the off position. But there's holes in the bottom of this cup, so you got to keep filling it up with this reused water, otherwise it drains out and kicks back on the fresh water. That's the whole mechanics of the system. Actually runs off 12-volt DC. We supply, typically most people have a 110 GFI plug above their sink. You just you fish a wire and put a plug underneath, down by the tank. Then we supply kind of a small hairdryer sized transformer that steps it down to 12-volt DC. Uses about 50 cents worth of energy a year. There's a little two-strand wire that goes from the back from the tank to this switch. That's right. Maintenance required 15 minutes once a year. Basically, you do two steps. One, you pull that screen out, rinse it off, put it back in, and at the same time, you take the lid of that tablet dispenser off, reload it with 3 more of these chlorine bromine tablets, and then let it go. So once a year, annual maintenance. What we're thinking about doing at this point is adding to the kit a blue tablet, a blue deodorizing tablet, and what happens is they stack up. The bottom tablet is dissolved first, and they just kind of begin to fall on top of each other. You'd put this blue tablet on top, and as it falls down, So that's kind of our system. We'll have it over here if you'd like to learn more about it, and I guess I'll answer any questions. Our system currently is recommended to work with a Fluid Master 400A, which has the backflow preventer in there. But just so you'll know, we do something we think is fairly unique as far as bringing the water in. It actually comes in through a separate water line. You have to have a 2-piece toilet, which uses bolts. Okay, we replace those 2 bolts with hollow stainless steel bolts. Okay, so the water comes from the back of your tank to the back of your toilet and then splits, and this reused water actually comes up through those bolts. So your freshwater line is coming through the fill valve, and the reused water is actually coming through the bolts in the back of the toilet. So the idea being that once you close the lid of the toilet, close the vanity doors, you don't really even know you got it, and they're 2 completely separate water lines coming to the back of your toilet, and there's no way they're going to cross-connect because of that. If there's no water in the storage tank, it'll try to pull water from the tank first. Okay, it'll turn that pump on, but then it'll turn it off when it finds there's no water there. So it always tries to get it on first, and then it will shut itself back off if it's dry. Or if there's only half a gallon of water in there, it'll put a half a gallon of water in the tank first, and then shut itself off and finish supplementing it with fresh water. Yeah, the makeup is always fresh water, and it could be makeup 100% makeup. Yeah. Depends on whether the question was how long does it take to pay it off, the payback. Depends upon whether there are rebates. We're getting ready to go into a pilot project with the Metropolitan Water District in Southern California with the intent that there'll be rebates offered. If there's no rebates at all, full boat cost, it's probably a 6 to 8 year payback because you're looking at probably saving somewhere around $35 to $55 a year, depending upon the cost of water and wastewater discharge. If you get a rebate, then that number of years could almost go in half.
What's the potential with your chlorine tablets of some type of chemical reaction in that tank with the amount of chlorine, or is it a small enough amount of chlorine? We
actually studied that because the question was, what happens if somebody pours ammonia, on top of chlorine in high quantities? You get a chlorine gas thing, but what happens is because of the low level of chlorine, this brick is only about 36% chlorine, and the level even at a high level of ammonia or something like that, you won't get a cloud that's going to be toxic. Yeah. Tablet dispenser looks like this. It holds 3 tablets. There's a side inlet. So as the water goes down the bathroom sink, it passes over the one on the bottom, and then it drops in two. So the 2 on the top stay completely dry. The one on the bottom stays dry except when an activity occurs. So it just picks up, basically turns the water, gives it about 1 part per million chlorine residual. In the next 18 or 24 months, we'll have a shower tub system as well, using the same piece. Exactly, but it's really, as you said, the other thing we've discovered is that we really hope that this product, the AQUS, ushers in lots of different kinds of water reuse. There's a lot of neat ideas that are kind of going on out there, but most of them are big systems. Most of them are for whole house systems, and a lot of people still think gray water's gray, and so the idea of people spending a lot of money to buy the system and then have it replumbed and all that kind of stuff is a negative. And so we're hoping to convince people through a small product like this that gray water is not gray. It isn't going to be harmful. It's going to make some sense, and we really think that it's going to usher in lots of different neat products that are either in the market already or coming out. So.